Welcome to Simplify My Small Business. Getting a bit of delay through my headphones today. Simon here.
Adam over here.
And we're back on the Skype setup, but with a decent microphone on my end.
And, the obligatory technical issues before recording.
A bit of sound ninja skills never hurt.
Yeah, from my end, that whole intro track sounded like it had been chopped up by a mad Professor DJ. Pretty interesting. Episode 48. So we're going to make some pretty interesting changes on episode 50, aren't we?
I think we are.
We've
been promising it for weeks.
Let's not tell anyone about that. Let's just. It's a teaser. It's a teaser. Yeah. We're doing new stuff. It's going to be awesome. We're talking about Tim Ferriss's DEAL methodology today. Well, the first part.
Really interesting framework, this.
Yeah, remember when we went and saw him, what was a few months ago now, he was talking about he actually uses this model when he's assessing venture capital opportunities for himself. So it's a working model. It's not just some kind of blueprint that sits in a book somewhere and doesn't get used by anyone. So it's pretty cool. And please excuse the kids in the background if you can hear them. I'm sure they'll calm down after they're fed. I'm
convinced it lends a wonderful air of real lifeness to the show.
Yeah, we're not just pretend guys. We actually exist in the real world.
I've shuffled my little one off to tennis lessons today.
Ooh, how very special and uplifting for the young man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so DEAL stands for Definition, Elimination, Automation, and Liberation. And we are going to look at this in 4 parts. And we might put a bit of a slant on that as well. But 4 parts. Today we are looking at definition. Our whole point is if you don't have a clear definition of what you want to achieve in your business, a project, something in your life, a marketing campaign, any of that kind of stuff, if you don't clearly define it, then you really don't know what you're trying to achieve. And it's very hard to put a plan in place. It's very hard to benchmark where you're going. It's very hard to know if you've actually achieved it. So we have to start with a clear definition.
I think it also helps you shake the weak points out of your plans. And it gives you a bit of a target to aim for, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this phase is somewhat similar to a feasibility phase that you would talk about in software development or, like a business modeling or, business design kind of project design framework.
For sure.
So I always sort of say, definition provides you a target, and some people will say that a definition is limiting, and I'm pretty sure there's an Oscar Wilde quote somewhere to that effect. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you're clearly defining a specific goal or a specific marketing campaign, then you have like these edges to work with, this framework to work within, and you know that you're on the right path. If you don't have that definition, then you could be just toing and froing between multiple projects and you're never actually hitting that one thing.
And I think that by creating that definition, you tighten things up, as I was saying, you hold yourself accountable. You do.
It gives you the old project planning that you used to be able to do with Microsoft Project, and I don't even know if that still exists anymore because I'm so far away from the world of Microsoft, but you allow yourself to define milestones, who's responsible for what, when it drops, what's relative to something else, like does part A need to happen before part B or after part C, and is there multiple parts to part C, and when do they all drop in place? So you can get quite detailed with this and that depends on the complexity of the project or of the business you're looking at. But similarly, you can define things from that 30,000 foot level that we talk about quite often.
And that level's really, really important in a small business, I think. You're at the tools so often, you're at the coalface. It's time to step back, take a 30,000 foot view and see what's going on.
So the first thing that we want to talk about is the idea that success is also originated with your definition. You need to define specifically what your idea of success is, because success from one person to another is a completely different concept. For someone, it's money. For someone else, it's prestige. For someone else, it might be a very altruistic. So don't just base your idea of success on what someone else says is success. It might not be the flashy red Ferrari or the big mansion in the particular suburb of your city. So What does success mean to you? And this requires you to sit down and think. And once you've done some thinking, you can clearly define what achievements need to occur for you to class yourself as being successful.
And they're very broad strokes. If we're talking about a project-based definition of success, it could be putting in place KPIs, putting in place sort of yardsticks of what success means in terms of that project.
Correct. So success, once you define what it is, you can measure whether you've achieved it or not, and you can put in your benchmarks along the way to success. So I suppose the first thing, before we even start looking at projects and the smaller little bits and pieces that put a business together, even bigger than your business is your ultimate idea of what success in your life means.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like we should have uplifting music right now.
We could do Wind Beneath My Wings or something like that. Might be a little bit depressing as well as uplifting. I don't know. It depends on which particular verse we're in.
That song is never coming to Simplify My Small Business. I'm sorry, Adam.
Can't we just like scratch it up and...
Yeah, we could actually.
There's a guy on YouTube I just found last night that he's a metal guitarist and he's out of this world and does sci-fi tunes to metal. Like he rewrites them in metal.
Oh, wow.
So I listened to Star Trek, like the Imperial March metal version, and the TARDIS song from Doctor Who metal. Anyway, really interesting. We should probably get Wind Beneath My Wings done by that guy, and then we could put it on.
And then we could use it
this episode because that would fit.
I like these plans.
So where were we? Success. Before you even, you might be in the middle of a business right now. So it might be time to sort of reverse engineer your thinking on this one. And you might have to step back and say, okay, is this particular business taking me to my point of success? And if it's not, you've got to do a couple of things. Either you've got to retool your business and point it in the right direction, or you've got to get out of that business and start another one.
Absolutely.
Because your business is your vehicle. And if that's not taking you to your ultimate success, then, well, you're kind of mad. And the whole point of this podcast is we don't want you to be a small business owner going crazy. So tough decisions potentially need to be made there. But this is what the idea of definition does for you. Even if you're already in the middle of working, you can take a step back and define things for yourself. You can cost them out. You can put time frames on them. And you can work at how long it can take to achieve. And then you can say, okay, is what I'm doing right now going to get me there? And if not, what do I need to change?
So it's about breaking down your dreams into goals, yeah?
Yeah, that's why I like to look at it. So, a dream can be a pretty a daunting, audacious kind of idea. And maybe it's too much to think of at one thing, but you can break that down into specific goals and you can target those goals. And then as you tick those goals off, you're getting closer and closer to your dream. So things that most people talk about would be like owning a house, being able to go for a holiday every year, having enough money in the bank to spend it on stuff that you enjoy, like maybe going out once a fortnight to a fine dining restaurant or something like that. It can be anything. Owning the clothes that you like, driving the car that you like, getting yourself a boat. All these things are going to cost a certain amount of money, which is going to take a certain amount of time. And knowing that, you'll be able to break down what you've got to do and define how you're going to get there.
Well, it takes something that is quite ethereal, I guess, in your head and translates it into reality, doesn't it?
It does. A lot of business coaching courses that I've done or I've been a part of or I've helped build all talk about dreams being very important but mostly never attained because people don't actually put measurable markers on those dreams. So let's say you want to buy because it's the easiest way to talk about material stuff. Let's say you want to buy a Ferrari and it's going to cost you 300,000 Australian dollars and you want to do that after you've bought a house, which is going to cost you $1.5 million. So you know that you need $1.8 million to get those two dreams sorted out. And one comes before the other. Then you can start to chunk down. How long is it going to take me to make that money? Because I've got all my expenses and I've got to live and I've got to feed the wife and kids and all of that kind of stuff. How long is it going to take me to get there? Okay, 70 years is a bit long. I don't want to have a Ferrari when I'm 95 years old. That's not going to work for me. So what I need to now do is make this amount of money each week. And when I can do that, then I can achieve my goal. Okay, how am I going to do that? So it gives you the what to aim for, and then later on you can work out the how.
That's one of the reasons why I love this framework, because it gives you a self-critical kind of model to question yourself. and to work through all of the different issues and the different questions that come up in the process.
Yeah, and maybe at some point we can put together a little a worksheet to go with this kind of idea. I do have something from way back when I was doing the Business Jolt free training course. So if I can find that, I'll put a link to it. But I'm making no promises because it's not immediately specific to this, but it helps you work out dreams and goals and all that kind of stuff. So I can find it. I'll put it up on the website. If I don't, listeners, please don't hate me because it's been lost in the ether. But you'll be able to find stuff like this online. Like if you just type in Tim Ferriss DEAL, I'm sure you'll find worksheets online that help with the way he goes about his definition process and the way other people have modified it for themselves. But you get an idea of what it's about, and you can start to chunk it down even without a worksheet. A worksheet's just going to give you a head start.
And I think it relates pretty heavily to SMART goals. It's a similar kind of concept.
Absolutely. If they're not measurable, if they're not attainable, you're barking up the wrong tree, so to speak.
Exactly. So you find plenty of worksheets online for those sorts of things.
The important stuff is to be specific. Now, obviously, we want everything to be simple, but that doesn't mean you don't do work to get there. By specific, we mean measurable bits and pieces. So we've got metrics in there, we've got numbers, we've got times, we've got time frames, we've got deliverables. And you can go into as much depth as you want. It depends at what level you're looking at your definition. If it's lifestyle success, and that's, as Simon said earlier, fairly ethereal. It's more about how do I want to feel when I get to the end of my days. What will have made me feel like I actually contributed or achieved what I wanted to achieve in this life. You might not be able to put a specific dollar figure on that or a output figure or anything like that. That'll be a feeling, but you'll be able to chunk it down under that to find out what you need to get. And if that's sounding too crazy at the moment, then you can use this whole kind of framework just to have a look at your business and where you want to take it. And even if that's too big, maybe you've got a marketing campaign right now and you can look specifically at that marketing campaign. What does this marketing campaign exist for? Who am I aiming it at? What do I want to get out of it? Where am I going to put it? All that kind of stuff.
It's a really interesting framework, like we were saying, to, I guess, examine what you're doing, isn't it?
I think at every level that you can conceive of, from life all the way down to the smaller parts of your business, you can get something done with this. And we're purposely not going into a lot of detail here because this is an episode that's designed more to make you think and have that moment to get some perspective on like where you want to head yourself, where you want to take your business, and the little bits inside your business that you want to move. And I'll give you an example from a personal point of view. What I've been doing over the last month in the gym, my mantra is going pro. So we're changing things in the gym, and the goal is to make everything look a lot more professional. So we're changing the layout of the floor of the gym. We're putting in some new storage devices, so racks for equipment and things like that just make it look a little neater and tidier. Gives the impression that we're actually trying a little bit harder to have everything in its right place and not make it look like a messy gym. We're going to ramp up how we do cleaning. We're renovating the amenities area, putting a new kitchen in place. Then we're going to be improving our sales process and our follow-up process and all these kind of things that will show there's a smoothness and a flow, a consistency and a professionalism to the business. Now, that professionalism has always been there, but it's not always been presented to everyone. So this level of consistency and concentrating on the targets for success in those areas all started with me defining what we wanted to do, which was get professional.
Yeah, wonderful.
So that's what you can do. You can just sit down and you can rip anything apart and put it back together again, and you'll know what's going wrong. And again, this might require you to test and measure stuff that's already in place.
And the really nice example about that is it's a simple goal. You've got an existing business, you've got an aim, and you've defined it, and you've moved forward with it.
Yeah,
so
exactly
I think, like
right. So, as I said, from my point of view, it's not about defining ethereal success. It's about, okay, I've got this vehicle moving. What do I do to make it move better? Because ultimately, I need to make more money out of it. I've got two business partners who want to make more money out of it. I've got members who want to have, or maybe not want to have, but deserve to have a better experience, and we can provide that. So, in my opinion, if a business can provide a better experience, they should. That will make me feel better as a business owner because I know that the people that are paying me money for a service and an experience are getting a better result. So, there's multiple success aspects to this kind of thing. Once you've defined it, you can work out what you get out of it.
I think like you were saying, we want this to be an intro. And now that we've got 2 weeks between episodes, what we want all of you out there to do is come back with your goals defined by our next episode, written down, and then you can think through what the E in DEAL means, elimination.
Exactly. So Tim Ferriss put this together in a very specific order. You define what it is you want first, and then we get onto the stage of elimination, which is all about getting rid of the shit in our lives that we don't need in order to stop. That's the stuff that blocks us from achieving what we've just defined. So it's really important in the next fortnight, if you want to get on this train with us, that you define something. It can be the high level stuff. It can be small level stuff. It can be a specific project. It can be, I don't know, it could be like defining your sales process. There's stuff that you can do within a 2-week period that you will then be able to go, okay, now we're on to the elimination phase. How is that going to affect what I just defined?
Yeah, totally. This week's quote
from Jane Austen.
It isn't what we say or think that defines us, but what we do. She was a wonderful writer, wasn't she?
Yeah, this one's from Sense and Sensibility. Great way with words.
You've been listening to Simplify My Small Business with me, Simon Hampson.
And me, Adam Stanicki.
Go check out the website, www.simplifymysmallbusiness.com. All the old episodes are there. And of course, share this with 5 of your friends and feel good for the rest of the week.
Thank you so much for listening.